Welcome everyone to Monday Afternoon Roundtable, Season 2, Episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our first year.
Yep.
We made it a year.
Completed first year. We started in May of last year.
As we were sitting here talking about that, it doesn't seem that long.
No.
It does to me.
Does it? Why?
We've done 30 some. This will be our 31st episode, but we've never done 31 the same way.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And if our viewers and listeners will work with us, it's trial and error. We're learning this as we go. We got Mark working behind the scenes in the control room today, and he's good at this. So he's going to help us, but sometimes our audio may not just be just right, or our video might be off a little bit, but we're learning as we go. So hopefully it'll get better by year 2.
That's right.
Because we've had a year to learn. So today we're going to talk about interview and interrogation.
Before can I do a quick shout out? Bradley Towery, our guest from last week, gave us this plaque that he did with his engraving. Bradley, as we talked about last week, owns Daily Defensive Firearms and Brad's Laser Engraving Service. We'd like to do a shout out to him and thank you very much for being on the podcast and for the nice gift. We're going to keep this up here all the time. It looks really good.
I love it.
Great job.
I want one for Blue Line.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I enjoyed that show too.
And he's a. Hopefully, we're good customers to him too because we use him and we suggest everybody else go use him.
Yeah,
and he knows what he's doing.
He's honest. He's fair and
good prices too.
Yes.
And that's that business. You learn trial and error with that as well. And he's been in long enough, and so I enjoyed that show. So hopefully we can bring him back on again.
Yeah.
But today we're going to talk about interview techniques and interrogation, the differences, and we've all done it, and how important it is in our line of work in the private investigations world, interviewing not only clients but witnesses, suspects, co-defendants, and all the legalities that go along with that. Let us preface our podcast saying we're not attorneys and we're not giving legal advice. We'll make sure we say that.
Yes.
And I would like to bring an attorney on and talk about the interview interrogation episode maybe another time, just to kind of get their perspective on dealing with the interview. Sometimes interviews go into interrogation when they shouldn't.
You're correct.
And you've seen that, both of you, I'm sure, especially when you're interviewing a witness who possibly could be a suspect, and it's kind of, okay, you're free to go anytime, but they don't realize that, and you're sitting there with a firearm and a badge,
blocking
the door, and and they can't leave. And so in reality, that becomes an interrogation.
Or a field interview becomes interrogation if you put them in a car.
Or a seizure.
Right.
You can even go further and go into a seizure and prevent that person to freely leave.
And it's based on what the person believes, not what you believe.
Exactly.
And it's a tough line there sometimes because you're trying to go out there and work a case, and you're doing the best you can. Those uniform guys are out there working the road, and so they're dealing with what they have. You said something a while ago, a field interview, I think is what you called it. That's probably one of the missing links in basic law enforcement, that a good officer, those guys and girls that take notes during their shift, they'll stop a homeless person or a hitchhiker or whatever, get the name, get the information off a car sitting at an odd place at an odd time at night, things like that. Then they can go back to their notes and say, well, I talked to that gentleman at 2 a.m. this morning. He's a suspect or she's a suspect. It's just good police work.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before.
And there's a great misnomer that only detectives do interview and interrogation when it's completely the opposite. Patrol officers do more.
10 to 1.
Way more.
Much more.
20 to 1.
Very much so. And they don't realize that. I always would tell younger officers, you're developing your interview and interrogation on every call. Because you're interviewing somebody, and to an extent, you might be interrogating them even though they're not in custody. You're trying to solicit specific information.
And one thing we do when we take on a felony case, when we're representing the suspect, is I like to look at the legal considerations dealing with the interview. When our client was interviewed, what point in that interview did it turn into an interrogation, and were they advised of their Miranda warning?
Correct.
And everyone knows what Miranda's about, the rights of the individual, especially during a custodial interrogation. But sometimes they'll wait to the last second to provide that Miranda warning after the
Mm-hmm.
has pretty much spilled their guts.
Yeah.
So there's again fine line there.
Let's just give maybe we don't have to give a formal definition, but just what are the differences between an interview and an interrogation, in case somebody out there is listening doesn't know, they don't understand the concept that's not been in law enforcement.
Well, basically, as Tim hit on this, the freedom to leave. You deprive that individual of their rights to freedom, that they can't leave. It becomes an interrogation at that point. In other words, door's locked. You're in custody.
And I'm blocking the door.
Yeah, and it's an interrogation at that point. Whereas then when they come in, they're free to go. What I like to see when I go out and do inspections for police departments, the interview room is important to make sure that door hasn't got a lock on it, or there's an interrogation room and then there's an interview room. It can be used for both, but if it's an interview, that door needs to be unlocked.
Let them know they're free to go, where the bathrooms are, if they need something to drink.
And it all needs to be videoed, audio and video. Or excuse me, audio and video. And it needs to be checked prior to the interview or interrogation itself. So many times, and you've seen it, we get the discovery, and the interview, you can't hear the interview, or the officer shuffling papers and you can't hear what's going on, or there's so much going on outside the room you can't hear. So it's important. That's going to be your case, basically, when you bring that individual in, that suspect, and you're doing that interrogation or the interview. You want to make sure everything they say you capture for court purposes and for later. But I guess to answer your question, and the individual's ability to freedom to leave, or they felt that they're in custody at that time and they can't leave.
Plus, you could still have a non-custodial interrogation, but you've got to base it. You developed a suspect, they're not under arrest, and you're still trying to solicit specific information leading to evidence. The key is they can tell you to go jump off a cliff and walk away, and you can't do anything.
Correct.
And you've got, it's kind of in the middle, I guess you would say. And we've all done that before, where you don't have enough to arrest, but it's all about timing. Sometimes you don't want to tip your hand, but sometimes you got to.
Right. Well, that's when it becomes accusatory.
Yeah.
That's when you're saying, I got you.
Yeah.
We think you did this crime. Then at that point, it becomes an interrogation, in my opinion.
And you have sometimes the suspect will want to talk to you to do a reverse interrogation.
Yes.
They want to see what you got. So you got to be aware of that as a law enforcement officer. It's all about timing. It's hard to explain. You just got to, it comes with experience.
Yeah. And during an interrogation, the questions are more direct. And during an interview, they're more open-ended.
You're right.
Giving them, give me more, like Tim said, give me more information, let them talk. But some guys that have been through the system so many times, we see them, they know the drill.
Yeah. And after the third round, you might as well.
Yeah, they say,
go
I want
do
my
what you got to
lawyer
do.
present. Yeah, you do what you need to do, but I'd like to have my lawyer present. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what I recommend anybody that's arrested before they speak is to have a legal counsel.
I've taken a couple probably 3 interview and interrogation classes, and they basically say an interview, you just let them control and you solicit as needed, but in interrogation, you stay in control.
Yes.
And that's hard to do sometimes.
If you're at the point of interrogation, you should have already set your either have a warrant in hand or know you can go across the street and see a judge and get a warrant
You have enough
before
evidence.
it goes to that depth.
Right. Yeah.
And you're asking questions a lot of times of questions you already know the answers to.
Or maybe a co-defendant.
Yeah.
You know somebody helped him.
Yeah. You're trying to just
Pull it out.
Yeah.
Here's another question for both of you. At what point in the interview, it's an interview now, and you formed your opinion. You feel like this individual is the suspect or who you're looking for in this case, and they say, I want an attorney. They lawyer up. Stop all questioning is the legal way it should be done. All the questioning should be stopped at time. But here's the other thing. What if that individual gives a spontaneous statement after he or she says, I want an attorney?
That's why you keep the recording going.
Thank you.
I've had spontaneous utterances where the guy lawyered up, and we're on the way to the magistrate's office, or at the magistrate's office, and he starts making spontaneous utterances, and we got the video and the bailiffs as witnesses because he started saying things without being questioned, which was, I mean, that happens.
A lot.
Yeah, and then when we spin it a little more, the the Constitution and the Supreme Court changed. It was called the Garrity Law. You've heard of that,
Oh, yeah, we
and
got
especially
more-
law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
And you've got some notes on that. I'll let you talk about it. But tell us a little bit what you got there.
Well, Garrity is a 1967 Supreme Court case in which law enforcement officers were accused of ticket fixing. And Garrity rights are administered in an internal affairs investigation to suspects who are law enforcement officers or other public service employees in internal and administrative investigations in a similar manner as Miranda rights warnings are. The issue is, if you're going to make it just an administrative investigation and you do not plan criminal charges, you read Garrity. You're really in trouble if you get read Miranda and you're a public, because then it's a criminal.
That's correct.
They're going to go toward criminal, not just administrative. In public service, you can be compelled under Garrity to tell the truth in exchange not to be charged criminally, but you cannot not tell the truth. If you refuse to talk, you're automatically fired.
They can still, yes.
Fire you.
And when I was in government work, I mean, we had to give the Garrity warning every time, and rightfully so. I think that's a good. I think the unions pretty much were behind that, if I'm not mistaken, or it was a New Jersey ruling, right?
Yep.
I'm sure that's what it was.
Yes.
But yeah. So we always had to make sure that they understood their Garrity rights and that they knew the difference between Miranda and Garrity.
And honestly, they should teach this in the police academy.
I think they do now.
They didn't when I.
Did they not?
No.
Yeah, I think
They never
I think
spoke
they,
of
I think they
that.
do now.
And I was probably a veteran police officer before I even knew what Garrity was.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't. I was like, what are you talking about? You know, that was.
Well, and then you got the ethical issues dealing with interviews and interrogations. We all remember back in the 20s and the 30s and all the way up to the 60s probably, and even the 70s, where you had the big bright light and the nightstick or whatever, and intimidation. You obtained a confession based on threats or intimidation to the suspect, and that happened. And so and I'm going to the broad end of the spectrum, but that still occurs sometimes when an officer's not compelled to tell the truth and everything they know during an interview or an interrogation. They can, what's the word I want to use? They can embellish a little bit.
Yes, and that's legal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, you can say you have this, that, and the other.
In reality, you do not.
And the old trick of having the file folder with some fingerprints.
Old fingerprint cards.
Yeah, where you just lay it out, that you lift it,
Yeah.
and you don't say a word, you just leave it
Yeah.
sitting there,
Or any kind of evidence, a hair sample or
Yeah.
whatever. Say, well, we got this, or this is what we have. In reality, you don't. So
play the CSI
What
TV
about,
game.
what about the old good guy, bad guy? Did y'all ever do
yeah,
that?
and that's
And
there's
a lot of times
to do
it
that.
works,
Yeah.
a lot of times it doesn't.
So I want that dickhead to go back out.
Yeah,
Bring the good guy
and
back in.
then or both of you start it and one be the bad guy. His plan is first 5 minutes and I'm leaving.
Fuck this, I'm
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
here. You're not gonna tell me the truth.
We did that a lot, and it worked a lot.
So it's,
Then everything calms down.
Mm-hmm.
Everything,
And I've been in, and I'll give you a situation, and all of you have too, is situations where it gets heated.
Oh yeah,
Especially when we do prison interviews. I was doing one time with an attorney, and this was a murder suspect, and we were representing that individual, and he was just spilling bullshit the whole time we were talking to him. He just wanted to talk about things that weren't even relevant in this case, and we're trying to, we got other cases we got to deal with, but we're trying to get him to get ready for court, and it got heated, and he come across the table as a female attorney, and I mean, literally, it got ugly for about 5 minutes, and sometimes you're in there and they can't hear what's going on. Of course, they can't hear in the interview room with your counsel, but sometimes it gets crazy, and I got the bailiffs or the sheriffs to come back in and help us and put him under control and put him back in the cell. Believe it or not, we stayed on the case for another year, but it was just he had emotional issues. He was coming off drugs and everything else. But you got to be careful. What you're talking about the good guy, bad guy interview techniques. What do you do about deception when you know the individual is lying to you, and you've interviewed so many people, and you're sitting there, this guy's lying out his ass?
if you can prove that, it helps you
I know.
because here's what he keeps saying.
Right.
And one day he's going to slip up.
Mm-hmm.
One day his lawyer, maybe in trial, is going to say one thing, say that's not what he's told us 25 times.
And don't call them out initially.
No,
Get as
let 'em
much
ride,
as you
let it
can. Yeah,
ride.
you take it down. Everything you let them tell, even though you know it's 100% wrong.
I like those the best.
Yeah.
Because you knew, you know.
And sometimes you can call them out when you do have everything, and then they'll, all right, you got me. And sometimes they'll double down and stick to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the location the interviews are conducted is important too. Sometimes they may be in the front seat or back seat of your patrol car. It may be in standing on the side of the roadway, or in other times it might be at the police department in the interview room or an interrogation room. It's just a courting or breathalyzer room, wherever you, intoxilizer room, wherever you may be, you're interviewing that suspect. So that's the only time you're going to have with them, basically. So you're going to have to gather as much as you can and ask all the questions that you feel relevant. And the way I used to try to do it is look at the end. When I was sitting on that stand talking to that jury, what I was going to have before me, and I would try to capture everything I could right then. And that's just the way I did it. But it's just important to have all your note stuff ready, your recording devices ready, or whatever you're going to use. But now, if you feel that individual's deceptive or just obviously lying, and there's all these techniques, and you've been to those classes, I'm sure, dealing with deception, and if the individual looks away and then looks back when they're answering a question, sometimes that's a sign of deception.
Look up for answers,
Yeah,
down for lies.
Okay.
That was old school, you know.
But it's but it works sometimes, and you just kind of keep on, and you turn that question around 2 or 3 different ways, and they kind of get caught up in their lie sooner or later, and just preparing for it, making sure that you can do all those things, but being able to. When you're taking notes, sometimes it's hard to keep up what the individual's saying, and I always just kept one of those old it wasn't digital, it was the old tape recorder, because I'd set it up on the thing, and I'd let them know I was recording sometimes. I'd say, I'm recording, and I'd preface it by the date and the time and who I was talking to, and that way I could just go back and fill in.
Once I got a full confession, which is rare, but when you did, my hand at the end, I would sign a date and time, and I would turn it, and let them read it. Let them sign date and time it. And
that's important, I think, because it's you got it on video, you got it on audio, you got your signature right there saying, I let them read over it, and this is
my handwritten note.
You said this, this, and this, and this. So yeah. Now let's talk about the victim now. Interviews with the victim. Let's say it's a shooting situation, and you got witnesses to the shooting. When we go and do interviews with witnesses, sometimes they may or may not talk to you. It's all on your approach, how you approach them, and you're not there to put them in any kind of danger or custodial. Of course, we're not going to do that anyhow in our business now, but we're just looking for information. And I'll tell them that. I say, look, I'm representing or I'm working with the law firm such, and I understand you're a witness. You're listed as a witness in this case. So, I'd like to talk to you a little further.
A lot of times when we go back and re-interview a witness from a criminal case, if it's a highly traumatic event, they may remember stuff 6 months to a year later that not that they were lying to law enforcement, they just didn't have that memory.
They blocked that part out.
And they remember it later on, because initially it's right then, and you're not going to remember, everything that's.
Well, think of our interviews up at Randy's.
Yeah.
When we walked out in less than a minute
of
a bad situation, did you see this? Nope. Did you see that? Nope.
I didn't see shit. It's a bunch of people coming towards me with guns.
I can remember in the early 80s, we had a 14-year-old female victim. There was not a female officer in Caldwell County on duty.
And no forensic interview.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Best you can.
Well, it was a serious case, and Roger and I got on the phone to Shorty Green. He was there, district attorney. Said, can we use a nurse? He said, absolutely. And he said, I recommend that. Instead of us hitting her with the hard, in-depth questions, the nurse, and she did a great job. She did a great job and never had a problem with it.
And now each county has designated nurses, forensic interviewers,
Yes.
DSS workers that are all trained.
Victim advocate.
Like the nurse may not be specifically interviewing her, but she's trained for the child to train to pick up on stuff if they
Yes.
give out information, whatever. So we've come a long, long way on that.
And the 5 simple things I try to look for in interviews is the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. And if I can pick up all those things, the why sometimes is the hardest one to figure out. But if you can figure those out,
And the more people you can interview, you can set a baseline of what's probably really happened. If you get over and over, the guy was in a green car, you can pretty much say it was a green car, but you might have a difference as the guy was 6 foot or 5'6". That's where you're going, things like that.
And there's different interview styles, and like you said, you've had people come in, and when they put their arms folded together,
Running a block.
yeah, they're done. They're not going to say much, and you kind of got to loosen them up a little bit. Offer them a soft drink, offer them a cigarette, whatever. Let's talk. We need to get this out. I'm here to investigate. This is my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. Bring them down to your level. But what that individual does, their body posture can tell you a lot too. How their sentences are structured. You can say, okay, this individual's intelligent, well read, probably got a college degree, or higher, or he's got some kind of mental problems or issues.
You got to remember also, most of the time is on your side.
Yes.
The crime's being committed.
Most of the time.
Sometimes sometimes you need something quick, but if the crime's been committed, time's on your side. Take your time.
Patience.
Be thorough.
What about confessions, wrongful confessions, where the person just feels pressured or doesn't have the mental capacity?
I've never had that. I've never had somebody say, I did it.
I never have either.
You mean false confessions?
Yeah, false confessions.
Yes, and that's a problem. And
Yes,
I'll
it
tell you
is.
where it's a problem.
Media.
Well, yes.
They want to be on TV.
They want the attention, but a lot of people on the autism spectrum will admit guilt when they're not guilty, especially to crimes dealing with sexual crimes, internet crimes, things, where they're not sure what they're doing, or they may see something and then they're charged and they'll admit to everything. Just thinking, okay, I'll get you off of me. I'll admit to everything. I don't want this pressure. I don't want anyone saying that I'm doing something or putting pressure on me, so they'll admit to it. So that's a problem in the autistic community, and it has been for years. But going back to some of the things that people, when they're being deceptive to you, and this has happened to all of you, when they say, I swear on the Bible I didn't do that, or I swear on Mama's grave, or my child's head.
Or to be honest with you. When they say that, to be honest with you.
Or they say,
let me run this by you.
You're not going to believe this shit. When they say stuff like that, it's going to say, well, that opens up the door. Okay, maybe not, but let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, yeah, I know this sounds strange, but... So usually there's more to it than that.
What about the legitimate confessions where they're telling you the 100% truth and you can't write it down quick enough? They're telling you everything.
That's why you hope that recorder's working.
And my experience has been, not all the time, has either been sex offenders, murderers, or long-time embezzlers.
Yeah.
They want to get it off their chest. They feel guilty. They say, well, the sex offender doesn't. They're in the mindset of, I didn't do anything wrong. The victim wanted it. I just obliged them.
Right.
And they're telling you that because they don't think they're guilty. Now, the other two, the murderer is the in the moment,
Heat of the
passion, I shot my wife or shot my husband, and I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And the embezzler is, I've been doing this so long, I feel bad. I'm so glad you caught me.
Let's talk just a minute, because you worked the sex crimes for so long, dealing with internet crimes with children, and you were on the task force dealing with that. But what were some of the responses when you would catch them in the moment? What would they do?
They would freak out. And I would tell the guys when we would do a takedown, I say, this is even more dangerous than taking down a drug dealer.
God, yeah.
Because a lot of times they would carry guns because they weren't suspecting the police setting them up. They suspected a pissed off dad setting them up. So they were scared of that. Or sometimes it was a same-sex homosexual type thing, and they were scared it was somebody just setting them up.
Rob them.
Yeah, or to blackmail them or something like, just hate bashing them. So they would carry guns. And then I would also tell them, I'd say, look, these people have, a lot of them, the majority of them had never been arrested for anything major. A lot of them had great jobs. Their life is going to flash before them in about 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they've had is going to be gone. Their marriage, everything. They're going to freak the hell out and not know what to do. They're going to panic.
Yeah.
And they do. They absolutely panic. Some of them would start crying. Some of them would tell you the truth and act like they did not. And these are the ones that you really had to worry about. They had been doing this in the past. And these are the ones you need to get search warrants for the computers and go back and see if there's multiple victims. And that's where we relied on the FBI and the SBI. They were dynamos with that. And some would be, and there was one or two that I were just like, man, that's first, and yet I kind of believed them. They were like, this is the first time, but some of them, you could tell they've done this before.
And your internet crimes, if you can dig deep enough, you're going to solve other crimes.
Yes,
Right.
you're going to find
It's
additional victims.
That's going to grow.
Basically, in any crime, you start digging. The more doors you knock on, the more places you open up on the internet or where their IT or whatever, you're going to find stuff. But now, when you would do those cases, they would know they were going to meet a juvenile.
Yes, we reiterated that several times. We would do that by saying, I'm 14 years old. I'm in the 8th grade. I don't have a driver's license. I ride the school bus. We would give them
100 opportunities.
Now, to be the majority of the people we talk to online, as soon as we said it the first time, would say, "Hey, I don't want nothing to do with me. Don't do with you. Don't contact me anymore." The most of them would do the right thing. I thought you were an adult. Leave me alone. Don't ever. You need to get off here. This is dangerous. So,
Yeah.
So then we would not do anything else. Once we would give them, we would even send pictures that we had stock pictures of the girl on the school bus or in the classroom or in gym. I'm in the 8th grade. I'm 14. I don't have a driver's license. I have to ride the school bus. I live at home with my parents. Over and over and over and over.
Give them ample opportunities
Yes.
to do the right thing. Well, but those are, like you told your officers, be ready for the worst. Because, like you said, it's going to flash before them when you pull up with those badges and guns and blue lights. And did you ever have anyone run? Did they take off running? Or
Not. We got so good at it, we would.
Had every escape?
Yeah, we would make them meet in where they would have to ram us or shoot us to get away. And that's what I was always worried about. We never had that. We had some that would have if they
could have.
Yeah, and we didn't give them the opportunity.
Yeah. But you guys had a conviction rate.
Yeah,
high,
we had I want to say we had 60 arrests and we had 58 convictions out of it.
Wow. But here's the deal with that. A lot of times the suspect does not want all that advertising of a trial.
No.
So they'll say,
plead guilty.
I'll plead guilty to this or I'll do that or whatever, and where it won't.
And sometimes the victim's family doesn't want to try.
Of course.
You got to look at that side too.
Well, and this one was victimless. When I say victimless, there was no person there. You were setting an individual up in a scenario like a reverse sting or sting operation.
And my main guy, Brent, that did it, he would have to work hours upon hours.
Building their trust?
Yeah, and doing the text messaging back and forth because it's
posing as the child.
Yeah, it's not a 9 to 5 gig, and we learned from mistakes what we needed to have.
Like what?
That they have techniques the bad guys do. I did not realize this till we do it, but they would say, show me a picture of you holding a piece of paper and write a certain word on it.
That makes it real time instead of stock pictures.
So what we would do, we had a way, and I can't remember how we did it. We had stock pictures of a girl holding a piece of paper, and somehow we could
Photoshop it.
Yeah, where we would write. They'd say write the word giraffe or write the word sunshine or anything. Something stupid.
So I can't spell
See,
giraffe.
I'm in 8th grade. I can't spell giraffe.
So we did.
Spell giraffe.
We learned from
There you
this.
go.
And when you get
Or laughing at a serious matter.
when you get a suspect that requires you to do that, that lets you know they've done this before.
Right.
And they've
they're professionals.
yeah. So the ones that don't require you to do that are the ones that are. The one time I did feel bad, we got a guy that was 20 years old, and he shouldn't have done what he did, but he was legit. He was like, man, I shouldn't have done this. I was stupid. But he committed a crime.
That's true.
I mean, he did it just as bad as anybody, but he wasn't.
He was not a serial criminal.
Yeah, and some of these, and I hate to be like this, we had a few that if you could look up in your mind what you thought a pervert was, this is what they look. I mean, they fit that stereotype, and some didn't. Some were professional. We had a couple millionaires. We had some with beautiful wives. And then we had the other spectrum. We had homeless people that had a phone that would.
I know, you're right. But you said you had some that were dealing from a male to male or situation. They wanted a young male as their
One of them was a school teacher, a local school teacher, and he carried a gun. He was carrying the gun, and when we interviewed him, he said the reason for the gun was he wasn't scared of the police. He was scared it was somebody posing that was anti-homosexual that was going to hurt him.
Yeah.
That was setting him up to hurt him,
Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting topic.
I got something even more we need to go over.
Okay, let's get it.
Real
Yeah.
quick.
I wanted to hear.
Fired you up, man.
I wanted to hear, especially when you dealing with your cases that you guys used to do when you were on the task force, because the conviction rates that you guys had and all the work you put into it, and Brett and all the Brent, excuse me.
We can get, maybe if Brent will come on one time, because Brent, I tried to be the undercover first. I went to a class. It was in Dallas, Texas, and it was a Reno, Nevada detective gave a class on how to do this. And I took the notes there, and I tried it, and I didn't have the patience to do it. And Brent come to me after working one of a victim crime where a 10-year-old girl was molested. And at the time, our daughters were 10 years old and in the same class at school. And I said, well, if you want to try this, here's how it works. And I gave it to him, and he ran with it and got really good at it. That's how that developed. I wish we could have kept doing it. It was
successful.
Very successful.
And I think it sent a message, especially this area, that that they're watching. They're
and
that's what's going on.
That's a good thing.
We had agencies from all over the country contact us and say, how are you doing this? Tell us what to do, and we would refer them to say, get on board with your DA's office first. Absolutely,
partnership.
Yeah, if they're not going to, prosecute these kind of cases, and you don't waste your time. If they're willing, find out what you need as far as evidence, and that's where the DA helped us. They said, give them ample opportunity over and over and over and over that you're underage.
Yeah.
What I wanted to get into real quick, it won't take long, is polygraphs.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, it's inadmissible, of course, for
it's a great tool.
But it's a tool we always got to realize it's a tool.
Yeah.
And they use it in all the private sector now. For if you apply for a job with any kind of salary to it or any kind of secret clearance or anything else, you're going to have to take a polygraph. You ever taken one?
I took the voice stress analysis.
I took a polygraph one time, and it's intense.
All the, what do you call them, polygraphers?
Yeah.
I can never say that. Or it's
polygrapher, right?
Polygrapher, I think. All of those.
I hope that doesn't mean something we don't.
Not the polygamist. But all that I've ever met are really seasoned, and I would almost say expert interrogators without it.
Oh, they
the
are.
tool is just there.
It's only as good. They're only as good as the person doing the analyzing it.
Science, I did some research. Science and legal both are saying they're not good, or not as
There's
good.
an argument on both sides.
Or not as good as they appear to be.
Yeah,
but
it's only as good as that person.
That's why they're inadmissible. But it's a tool.
After it's over with, the operator's going to come tell you, I'm about 85 to 90%. That's why it's not admissible in court.
But they'll also come and tell you, I think they're ready to give you a confession,
Mm-hmm.
or
That's why the tool works.
or I don't think that
Or
you
they
can
can
try.
or they can get a confession for you.
Yep, that's where the tool is, and people don't realize how the tool works, in that it just is a tool.
Mhm.
It's not 100%.
No.
Now, in the cases where you work where you did use a polygraph, when you asked them to submit to it, did you give them the pre-questions prior to?
We didn't do any of that.
Didn't do any.
We just said, and I didn't request a polygraph probably less than 10 times.
Is that right?
Yeah, 'cause I didn't want to. I was taught when I was a new detective, don't abuse this.
Don't overuse it.
Don't overuse it and don't abuse it. Save it for the and save it for the ones that you really really need it.
Mm-hmm.
And they say because if you rely on it, it will hurt your experience as an interrogator. You won't, and it will hurt your credibility. You don't want, you want to, break this glass when you need to.
The science behind it's dealing with your heart rate
Mhm.
and your breathing, and when you ask that certain question, does the heart rate go up? And supposedly, when you tell a lie, your heart rate will increase.
Well, and you
or
can
your
do that,
breathing will increase.
and you can do that without it. You can see when somebody, and it could be one or two things. They're lying and they're nervous, or they're just nervous because they've never been interrogated by police. But you can see sometimes their vein, their artery going, and it might just be they're nervous. They're innocent, but they're nervous because
Right.
you just got to play it kind of both ways.
But we've seen good interview techniques and we've seen bad. So, and then but an investigator, a good private investigator, that can take those skills, and they didn't have to be a retired police officer or prior police officer or anything like that. You learn those techniques based on experience, getting in those prisons and jail cells and interview rooms and talking to these individuals who are known convicts, who are already convicted felons. Yeah, you just learn a lot.
Well, here's another great thing. If you've ever got a chance, is to go take a proffer statement or downward departure, where it's usually in drug cases, usually in federal cases where they've pleaded guilty, and they will tell anything to any detective, and they can't be charged with it. But they'll. I went and interviewed them, and they tell you, during the month of January of 2012, I got 4 kilos of cocaine. I distributed it to Johnny, Eric, Ralph, and Susie. They'll tell you that, and then you can use that in cases against those.
But when you take that proffer statement, it needs to be held as such.
Yes.
In other words, it needs.
Yes.
If you're going to tell them that you're
Yeah,
offering
they know,
that.
They know. Yeah, they have to know that. And actually, I would go through the lawyer prior, not.
Well, yeah, that's
and have the lawyer contact. Hey, this detective wants to talk to you.
That's why we're working on the other end with the lawyer on that
Yes,
side.
yes.
And you say, well, we offered a proffer, but now you're wanting a charge, so you have to be really
Yeah, you
careful
can't do
with that.
one. You got to do one or the other.
So you got to say yes, we will, or no, we won't from the beginning, and it's according to how much information. But we did that on a big murder case, and was able to get the actual shooter. Our guy was involved, but wasn't the actual shooter, so he said, I'll do a proffer, and it worked. So it's been fun.
Well, real quick before we wrap
Another
up,
one.
no, it's just reiterating. Patrol officers do the majority of interrogation and interview, and they just don't realize it. And if you've got a child and you've ever been a parent, you've done interview and interrogation.
Yes.
That's damn
I
true,
mean,
especially teenagers.
that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But PIs,
So
they're missing that opportunity if they don't go out to any of
Well,
those interviews. They're not doing. I think they're missing the boat that they can get a lot of information if they talk. Like let's just use a shooting situation where there's witnesses on the police report, and the patrol officer's report. Okay, Tim Munday was a witness. Liz such call him on the phone. This is Dave, or go to his or her address and say, I'd just like to talk to you about this situation. Man, they'll talk to most of them will talk to you, and you learn so much about this case to help your client. Might hurt them a little bit too, but most of the time it helps them.
You're right.
So you just got to knock on those doors.
And again, we can talk 5 hours on this.
Yeah,
alone,
it's
but
important.
every
Part of our
every
job.
topic we bring up, we could.
I know.
We
Most
could-
time.
But anyhow, it's good first year, I think, for a little podcast.
Yeah, it's getting better. We got to get all the kinks worked out.
And we're learning. We're getting a little better at getting the kinks and then every now and then we get a new kink we have to deal
I
with.
know. We're gonna have a good time tonight. We got Too Much Sylvia, the band, from last year when we had our open house. They're coming back to town tonight, so we're going to have a
Yeah.
good time with that. And
Alive After 5 in downtown Lincoln. North Carolina.
Lincoln. Now, what do we got for last call today? We got something special.
Bowman Brothers out of Virginia.
Right.
Sounds good. Got several listeners. Sometimes they'll listen to the show, but they'll kind of fast forward till they get to the last call.
Yeah, he's like that part. That's fine. I mean,
and that's the fun part. That's what we have a good time with. But we
Keep
don't have
sharing.
yeah,
Keep
like,
liking.
share, and
subscribe, comment.
Yeah, we got today. I'm kind of closing it out after our last call, and I'm done for the week. You guys got anything going on?
I've got paperwork to get. I'm not field busy, but I'm paperwork busy.
Yeah, and that's part of this job. You got to.
We need to hire us a retired secretary.
A secretary and an IT person. All
They don't
in
call
one.
them secretaries anymore, boys.
What do they call
Well, what
them?
you call?
It's an administrative assistant.
Who's the administrators here?
That's like calling a flight attendant a stewardess.
What are
You
they?
don't call them that anymore.
Yeah.
It's just where we are. Right, Mark?
Well, let's close it out.
All
and
right.
Get ready for last
All right,
call.
last call. Thanks again for joining us. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Got to hit start and then come all the way over here. Okay.
Ready?
On three.
Ready.
Welcome back, everyone. Monday afternoon roundtable. Last call. We got small batch Cooper Distilled Bowman Brothers Pioneer Spirit Virginia Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Small batch.
What proof is it?
90.
90. All right.
Got some horsepower.
That's right.
Where'd you get this in Granite Falls store, or where'd you get it?
Hickory.
Hickory. I've never heard of it, so
I haven't either.
Yeah.
That's why I bought it.
and
And with the picture on it.
yeah, I love you probably can't see it from the video, but there's the brothers are all in the back that there. It's Tim, Jason, Mark, and David back here in the back. I'm gonna let you pick out which one you are, but yeah, it's John, Abram, Joseph, and Isaac Bowman were Virginia militia officers in the American Revolutionary War. In 1779, they led 30 pioneer families to Madison County, Kentucky, and established Bowman Station. Later, the brothers they settled in Fayette County. They were legends, admired and respected by fellow settlers for their courage and bravery, kind of like us. And then, the handcrafted bourbon whiskey is a tribute to the four heroic Bowman brothers. And Bowman's a popular name where we're from. And I love all the Bowman boys and girls in Caldwell, Alexander, Catawba County. So we're going to try this.
It's got a cool old school seal.
Yeah,
on it
it's
there.
got the old seal on it. Mm. Oh, wow. That's nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
If
Sweet.
it tastes like it smells, it's gonna be smooth.
I know.
It don't have a real harsh. What do you think, Tim?
Wait.
What do you think about the smell?
Here, Marcus.
Thank you, sir.
Got a good color to it.
How much was it, Tim?
I can't remember.
Hobby damn.
He got so much money he don't pay no attention. He just buys
He
it.
just buys it by
He
the
just gets it.
case, does it? Well, let's try this.
Smells good. Cheers.
Cheers.
Everything going good?
Great
Let's
episode.
go.
We did interrogation and interviews today. It was pretty good.
That's good. Wow. What do you think, Dave? That's one of the smoothest ones yet.
I wouldn't find it smooth. It's got a little bite.
Got a little bite.
Well, after bite.
Yeah.
That's in a minute.
But I like that. That's what I
The
like
back
in a
end
good
bite.
bourbon.
Yeah.
When you can taste the flavors, and you can in that.
Yeah.
So, oh man, it is good, Mark. I'm gonna have another sip before
Let's have
I
another sip
grade it.
before we grade it.
Yeah, I like mine to get cold, icy, and makes it a little better. And the second and third drink's always better.
Fifth, sixth, and seventh's better too.
Yeah, we talked about in our podcast tonight is our we got Alive After 5 in downtown Lincoln. We have several hundred people downtown, maybe probably more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Too Much Sylvia band's coming to town, so we're gonna have a good time.
Good time.
Yep.
Good time.
So, all right, Jason, what do you think?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
Yeah.
It's good.
Tim,
I'm on the low end also. I'm gonna go with 8.
8. Mark,
I'm gonna go 8.5, guys.
I'm with you, Mark. 8.5.
Yeah.
That's a good score. Maybe, yeah, I like it. I think it's good. It's got that bite at the back of your tongue, and when it goes down, you can feel it at the back of your throat, which I like. Not during. I like this kind of drink when it's cold weather. And I know that's weird.
Yeah.
But I just do. It just gives you that
Yeah.
warm feeling after you drink it, especially if you're outside and Christmas holidays or what's going on or whatever. But it's got enough bite to it that I like. I can taste all the flavors in it.
And I always like the back end bite instead of the
Yeah,
ones that
before,
are
yeah.
yeah.
Don't hit y'all at once.
Yeah, it's good.
Again, we know zero about bourbon and whiskey, other than the fact we like to drink it and score it, and we just go from there. So
We really hadn't had a bad one yet.
no, we
I
haven't,
mean,
and that's good.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, any reviewers want us to try something, we'd be happy to do
Yeah.
that.
Put it on our Facebook.
Within reason.
Yeah, within reason. Talk about the plaque again, Jason.
Bradley Towery, it owns Brad's laser engraving and Daily Defense firearms. He does engraving on basically anything, laser engraving, and he was on our podcast last week, last episode, and he gave that to us as a gift, and he's got all kinds of stuff in his shop, and I put on Facebook, our Facebook page, I put his information, phone number, and address, and some pictures of what he's got in his store. And he's a great guy. I've known him.
Super good guy.
Yeah, I've
Well,
known him.
that's why he's a small ownership,
Yeah,
but he can get what.
But he has all the federal licensing that he
does.
needs
Yeah.
to do all that, and so highly
Yeah.
recommend him
If
if
he
you're
doesn't
into.
have it in the store, he can get it.
I
for
bought a
you.
gun from him just a couple weeks ago. Gave me a great
great
deal.
yeah.
Does he
Great
do
guy.
any offers or contacts with you as far as concealed carry?
Yes, he does. If anybody comes into his store, he hands out my cards if they ask. I've had a ton of referrals from him. And also, going back to the engraving, he can engrave bracelets, what do you call them things, tumblers, the coffee things, anything you think of it. Guns, firearms, he's engraved like where you build your own rifle. By law, you have to put a serial number on it, and he can do that for you. Or he can put a logo on a rifle or handgun or anything.
Yeah, I'm going to send Brandon. Brandon's got some new guns. He's got his license where if you put a silencer on or if you put any kind of anything where you
Suppressor.
change a
Yeah.
suppressor, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Anything you change that firearm, you've got to put those numbers on it. And so, Brandon's going to use him. And talking about Brandon, he come down this week.
Yeah, I missed him.
Monday.
Monday, yeah. I'm gonna bring him down for an episode. I think it'd be fun
I think it
to
would
talk
too.
about. He's a tattoo artist, professional. He's out of Winston-Salem. It's called North State Tattoo Company. So I want to bring him in one day because Brandon's a cool guy and he does
Yeah.
the firearm stuff. He's a competitor.
Three
Because-
gun.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's quick draw. He's
Yeah.
good. I've watched some of his videos and but he knows a lot about firearms and knows a lot about the industry and the business. And so, but I want to talk about the tattooing a little bit too because so many people have tattoos now where when we were growing up, it's kind of taboo. Sailor
or
Sam or whatever, prison tattoos and everything else that went with it. But now, like I went to see him the other day, walked in, of course, his shop's not far from Baptist Hospital there in Winston-Salem. And he's tattooing a young lady, a full sleeve on her arm. And so I just, walked in, just talked to him a minute. And he goes, Dad, she's a surgeon at Baptist Hospital. And he gets all kind of
All walks of
clientele
life,
in
yeah.
there. He did a benefit for the Humane Society a year or so ago. And Jason, they were lined up around the block, and it was these little like paw prints for a cat or a dog or a bird or whatever you wanted to do. A little quick down and dirty. It was like $25, and they several $1,000s they gave to the Humane Society.
That's
You know,
good deal.
Good thing.
through his wife or his soon to be his fiance. They're getting married
Getting
in
married in
October,
October.
which is funny because what's going to make the episode a little interesting. I don't know if you know this, Mark, but my son's tattoo artist, his soon-to-be wife, fiance, she's a mortician. So it's kind of a unique combination,
Yeah,
especially when they moved into their new neighborhood. they walk across the street. You know, the dog got loose, so they captured the little dog. Brandon's looks like a biker guy.
Yeah.
Would
Big
you agree?
fella. Big fella, yeah.
He's got a long beard. He's
Yeah.
got the tattoos, and he's big and
Lovable
brawny.
guy, though, once you
and smart. But
Yeah.
anyhow, okay. But he goes across the street, and his wife, soon to be, is lovely and pretty and smart and intelligent. And they go across the street and to meet their new neighbors when they moved in this home. It's nice development. So Brandon's always, because of the way people respond to him, because of the way he looks, he has to be careful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when he walked up to the door, he knocks on the door, and they come to the door like, "Ooh, okay. You know, introduce yourself. We're your new neighbors. You know, your dog got loose or whatever, or left this in the yard." And they, well, okay, yeah. So here's my husband. Well, what do you guys do? We tell, well, I'm a tattoo artist, and she's a mortician. So they got okay. But anyhow, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They've got such a good relationship, and his business is growing, and he's doing really, really well. But I want to bring him on if you guys don't
Yeah, that'd
care.
be good.
I think he's great.
And let him do a last call. I don't know if Brandon even drinks or not. I don't think he does. But he'd probably do one with us, so
Yeah.
we'd see. But
Anyhow,
Anyhow,
Mark, I'm gonna go up to a 9 on that, buddy.
you going up to 9?
You're going up to a
I'm
9.
tell you, the deeper I got it, the better it got.
Bowman Brothers,
Yeah.
highly recommended. It's Tim doesn't know what the cost is. Is it more than 50 or less than 50?
I can't remember. I've had that.
You can't hide money.
No, that's not hiding money. I can't.
Hell, I'd have to take a loan. Go in the liquor store. But
I
anyhow,
bought it for the package. I mean, it's a good looking bottle.
Yeah.
well, there's a distillery I noticed in Newton, North Carolina. We tried
The warehouse.
the warehouse. That's correct. We need to.
We bought some from there.
We did, and it was
We
good.
won.
It was. I know, but we need to
Yeah.
maybe bring one of those guys down and see if
Yeah.
they want to talk to us one
We've
day.
been there and had drinks and stuff, and they got a bar there.
I saw that.
And just
We've been there and
yeah,
had drinks and whatnot. They'll bring a food truck in.
and just remember, we are so pro small business and local business.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
we're all for that.
Yeah.
You know, we all
Well, we're local
we're all
business.
businesses. Yeah, so we got to watch
Yeah.
out and help each other, no matter what the business. So.
And we got some viewers that kind of frown on the fact that we're having a drink sometimes, but that's just I enjoy a good.
We got nothing to do with
Bourbon,
that.
whiskey?
You know,
No.
the other week we couldn't have a last call because we all had to work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
and
We've had several
Right.
last calls we couldn't.
and we certainly don't leave here impaired. So.
No.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we have a drink and enjoy this, and I think it's fun. It gives us, you know, we had a hard week, all of us
It is.
have, so it's just a good way to end the week.
It's really I've turned it into a little hobby. I've started researching bourbon and taste test, different stuff that's above my intelligence level or experience level, and it's really something. It's really and you've got both of y'all have books about. It's really interesting.
It is,
Yeah.
and just the chemistry behind it and how they mix and how they distill and all the hard work that goes into it,
Yeah.
putting it
My
together.
son just moved to Kentucky.
I know he needs to send
I'm
it.
looking forward to going to some of the
They have
distilleries up there.
they have a thing every year up there, Mark, and he needs to go to it.
The whiskey
Well,
trail, or
whiskey
or
trail,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Is that in
it's-
Well,
Louisville?
that
Yeah,
that
Okay.
starts in Louisville, but it ends in Tennessee.
Yes.
Okay.
But
I'll have
it-
to tell him about that.
but
We're
it's
going
just
up over the 4th to visit with them. They're getting settled in. They just got their furniture
I
yesterday.
think it's
So,
like the 16 top distillers in America.
yeah.
yeah, cool.
I throw this out there. I wouldn't be opposed to every now and then maybe doing a testing on a cigar every now and then. I'm not a cigar smoker, but I like, I like
There's a rumor going around.
Rumor.
Rumor going
Yeah.
around.
word on the
Rumor.
street. Word on the
That
street.
there might be a cigar bar coming to town.
Whiskey / cigar.
Well, there's this place in Gastonia called Whiskars.
Whiskars.
They just sold it to another owner, so it's going to change. But I highly recommend that. Have you ever been there?
No, but I've heard
Oh,
a lot
it's-
about
I've heard a
it.
lot
It's
about it.
great.
I've
I
never
like a
missed-
cigar once in a
Oh,
while.
this
I'm not gonna smoke
you walk
one
in,
every
it's
day.
the bar, then you go back into the humidor and all the area where the smoking, and you get what you pay for.
Exactly.
And some of these guys come in here and they're throwing out a lot of cash, and I just did the tour because I met the owner and got to do the behind the scenes tour at a private party, but it was amazing, and I never heard of it. Whiskars, cool name. Got whiskey out front, cigars in the back, and they got sofas, love seats, and then the more you pay, the better tobacco you go into the back,
Yeah.
and then you're paying for these high dollar
And it's
cigars.
just
High end whiskey also.
Yeah, and that's
You're talking $100 a shot.
Yeah.
Oh, more than that. Some of them, yeah, crazy.
Y'all are both right. You get what you pay for. I mean,
True.
And it's unbelievable.
But that right there, I don't know what the cost is. Tim doesn't know, but
That's
I would
great.
take that with, you know, I'll put that up with anything. And then I've had some high end whiskey and
Yeah.
stuff, and it's okay. That's good, but that's just as good. Now, cigar I know nothing about,
I don't either.
but I like the smell and the aroma of a good cigar, especially a foreign cigar.
I'll smoke one on the beach. I keep a box of cheap ones in the camper.
Yeah.
I go to the beach, I smoke one.
They're good.
Some
I mean, it's
of,
fun to do every
they're
once in a while.
Like
black
bachelor
and mild,
parties.
Black and
Yeah.
mild. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys remember Perk Warlick at Granite PD? He was an old dispatcher. He had a pipe, and I got him in my office in there. He smoked a pipe, and when he retired, he gave me his old pipe.
I was getting ready to say, how'd you get his pipe?
Yeah, he gave it to me. Because I always
there's
said,
ass whooping involved.
no, he was just a gentleman. Perk was our neighbor, worked at the
Wore a
police
suit and
department.
tie.
He always dressed.
Wore a suit and tie to
immaculate.
work.
He was just he's tall. He was a
That
good
generation.
man, good man.
Yeah.
And when the day, and I worked third shift, he worked second shift. When I was going to Western Piedmont Community College, and I would go in at night, and I'd be so tired because I'd be in school. Walk in, he'd say, his voice was deep, and he's just a gentleman. And he'd say, "Did you have a good day?" "Yes, sir." Da-da. He said, "Well, here's what happened today." Da-da-da. But his last day, he gave me his pipe. And because I always liked that aroma, and I said, "One day, Perk, I'd like to smoke a pipe." And it was kind of popular back then. And of course, I don't see anybody smoking a
I
pipe
remember
anymore.
my dad smoking a pipe.
They smoke marijuana through them now, but
Yeah. Yeah.
back in the day,
Good stuff.
Yeah, you-
Perk smoked that. It was good smelling stuff, but he was a good man.
Oh, they had all kind of. I remember going. I was a kid. My dad smoked a pipe, and he'd smoke cigars. And we go to. It was Revco Drug then. It's CVS now. And go in there, had a whole aisle of pipe tobacco and cigars. And
Yeah.
and for Christmas, we would always get Daddy a box of cigars or some pipe tobacco. Had all flavors, cherry blend, and I remember when he smoked a cherry blend. It smelled so good. It,
Oh, I know.
you know.
No.
Now you smoke that in somebody's house, that kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the same thing with a cigarette, but this is just where we come. So, anyhow,
All right.
We're in.
Like and share.
yeah,
We're on season 2, episode 1 now. So
yeah.
let's
Like
keep
and share.
going
friends.
together.
Go to Lincoln and Downtown Live after 5 and check it out.
That's right.
Next month tonight. I know this will be up after it's over tonight, but got
We're
three or
having
four
fun
more-
tonight.
It's
Three or
the-
four more dates through the summer, and
yes.
we're always here, so come see us.
It's the last Thursday of every month, I think, through September.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're always, it's great crowd, great bands.
Good people.
Yeah.
Shut the streets down. There, just hang out.
Fun time.
Yeah. There might be a little drinking,
Just a little.
a little dancing.
Yeah.
You gonna dance tonight?
No. I'm talking on the street. On the street.
I thought you was going down there to
No,
dance.
no.
Anyhow,
But the last time we did this, remember we had all the people come up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we never could show it because
Everybody. Yeah. Him.
anyhow, it was fun. Monday afternoon roundtable, last call. Bauman Brothers, highly recommend. Got a high grade. Try it. I know you'll like it.
The more you drink, the better it gets.
That's right.
It's good on the first drink, too.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We've had fun. See you next time.
thank you.